The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hi, welcome back to this week's edition of Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu, and I'm pleased to be joined by my co-host, Greg Buchanan, the voice of the CPCA. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Moses.
Great weekend, especially for racing. Well, not on day two in Yorkton, but there were some fantastic races.
Yeah, great races on Sunday as well as Friday in Yorkton. Now we're off to Dewberry this coming weekend.
All right, and I'm pleased to be joined by the co-chair of the Hartnell MacArthur Classic, Golf Classic, Bill Spence. And how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back again this year.
All right, and of course, the event just a little over a week away, and a lot of exciting news that's going to be coming out in the next few days.
Yeah, no, we just, last night we had about a 4-hour meeting, so we didn't get to watch Game 6, but yeah, putting the finishing touches on it. We've had a great support by the community again. The celebrities that we've got coming in will make it a marquee event as well for us in Lloydminster.
Well, I'm sure a hint for those who are watching, there's a couple Kings that might be coming to Lloydminster too as well, so that's not too bad. But let's talk about the game, guys. And of course, the Devils taking games 4 and 5, putting perhaps maybe a little pressure on the Kings, but they closed it out with a 6-1 victory. First Stanley Cup in their franchise in the 45 years. Certainly, where would you rate the LA Kings in terms of their playoff run with all-time playoff runs?
It's impressive. I mean, like we were just talking before we went on air, I mean, this is a team that snuck into the playoffs in 8th place. They took out the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed, and number 3 seed in the West. You got to give them kudos. Quick, I mean, there's the star right there. He gave up how many goals, and I mean, it's impressive, under 2 goals against average. I just die to have that in Philadelphia. I mean, it's every year we're sitting there wondering.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the Brizgalov Gong show, and then you think about Quick and what he did. A little torn though, the Flyer connection, them winning the Stanley Cup. To see Jeff Carter get shipped out of Philly and then whittle his way out of Columbus, and then all of a sudden he ends up with a Stanley Cup ring before the Flyers do. So it's a little tough, but I'm happy to see Gagne and Hextall and those other Flyers get their first Stanley Cup. So I'm happy in that sense.
They always say championship teams find ways to win, and I think the Kings did it in so many different ways. Their penalty kill, you've never seen a penalty kill like that in the playoffs before. Their power play was average. It looked pretty good last night, and the reason why they won those 3 power play goals in the first period. But they got efforts from everybody. He had all 4 lines rolling. You had great efforts by some young guys like Nolan and King, and then you had Yeoman's effort from Dustin Brown. And Dustin Brown didn't score for a month.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he scores 2 goals in the game. They needed those top players to be their top players, and they were. So the Kings now, they have to build on this. That's the only way that happens now. They go to next season, they have a large target on their back, or on their chest, that is, and be interesting to see how they respond, and be interesting to see who comes back next year with the Kings, because there's always changes.
You do mention Dustin Brown, and it was a good point. 20 points in the 20 playoff games. Great, impressive mark. Anze Kopitar, the way he's played, he's kind of shown how he's the next superstar if he hasn't been already. You look at Jonathan Quick, the list goes on, but is there a significant move? You could even be like the Mike Richards deal or the Jeff Carter deal. Or the non-trade. Was there something that made you say, hey, that was the reason why the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup?
I remember the guy behind the bench, too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
Daryl Sutter, yes.
Terry Murray was a coach that coached not to lose. Not to win, not to lose. He was so defensive oriented. The guys didn't attack. Sutter brings in a real attack mode, brings in intensity onto that bench, and probably the best trade they made was the trade they didn't make. Yeah. They had Dustin Brown on the trading block, and they didn't trade him. And look what he did.
I mean, that trading deadline, like you said, they don't trade Brown, they bring in Carter, they reunite the party boys from Philly, and I mean, they take off. So I mean, that team was ranked fairly high going into the season, and they didn't meet expectations in the first half. They they fire the coach, they bring in a couple different players, and everything seemed to click when it mattered. And so, yeah, congratulations to the LA Kings.
Yeah, it filters down.
Yeah.
It really does when it comes down to coaching, which I guess their next topic will kind of make you scratch your head. Was this a good move or a bizarre hire, bringing in Michel Therrien for the second time as the Habs bench boss?
Yeah, I get confused with this, the recycling of old coaches. I mean, the NHL is, I thought we're starting to move away from it with some of the recent hires, bringing in young guys that have been having success in the minors or in junior hockey, but in Montreal, there's a factor that plays a big part in it, it's language, and so they go back to that common theme. And I mean, you look at poor Randy Cunningworth, the pressure that he was under just because he couldn't speak French. He was blackballed before it even began. So Therrien, he didn't win before. He had Pittsburgh. He had all the talent there too, and maybe he's a different coach. He says he's a different coach, and he's learned. So, albeit to them to make that decision.
Yeah, what coaches are available for that job in Montreal? There's a lot of them available. Who is right for that job? Not that many. And Michel Therrien, is he the right guy for the job? I guess we'll know that by Christmas.
How much does language play a part? You touched on it.
Yeah.
Should it play a part at all in Montreal? They're unique in their own right when it comes to their sports.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't won a cup. I mean, it is the storied franchise in Canada. I'm not a Canadiens fan, but I mean, is it more important to have that French connection or to win? And I mean, winning breeds winning. Like we just mentioned, it's a trickle-down effect. So, but the fans speak, and they're the ones paying the dollars for the tickets, and the pressure's there for them to do that.
At the end of the day, if the coach is answering questions why they lost, and he's answering either in English or French, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Mark Crawford was a guy who was in the running, so to speak, and was taking French.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like they're limiting their pool of coaches that they could bring in, and I guess you are seeing what's happening. So hopefully, you would think that this wouldn't be the case. But
Can you
unfortunately,
imagine if the Oilers said we only want to hire Alberta-born coaches?
The
good luck.
backlash, yeah, exactly.
well, the Sutters aren't too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the Sutters aren't bad.
Yeah.
But after that, yeah, it's pretty.
Their shelf life is short, right? The Sutter's shelf life is
Yeah.
short. It wears thin on
Yeah.
the players, but I mean, one's got a Stanley Cup, and good on him. But I mean, Crawford, there's another example. There's a recycled coach that hasn't won in a long time, but there he is for a marquee coaching job again. Like, there's other people out there, but it gets frustrating. It's like the CFL. I mean, they keep bringing back the same coaches. There's obviously talent out there. Why not bring in somebody new? But the
there's-
pressure in Montreal is huge.
And there's great guys in the American Hockey League. Todd Nelson does a great job in Oklahoma. Is he going to get a shot
Dallas
at an NHL
Eakins.
job? Dallas Eakins is another one. Will they get a shot at an NHL job? They're going to have to wait because, they recycle these guys.
Well, you saw that in Toronto. All right. Well, we don't want to recycle you guys. You guys have been great so far, but we're going to have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Gloves Are Off.